Welcome, everyone. Welcome. As you come in, please introduce yourself and provide your name, STEM discipline, and institution you're coming from. Welcome. You're joining us for Thriving in Change. Hope you're in the right building, our Zoom room. Welcome, everyone. As you come in, please feel free to use our chat and introduce yourself, provide your name, STEM discipline, and institution. All right, and I'll say one more welcome. You are here for Thriving in Change, strategies for seizing opportunities and navigating challenges. So as you come in, please feel free to introduce yourself, provide your name, STEM discipline, and institution. And next, as we get started, we will begin with an icebreaker. And Hassan, when you get a chance, you can advance the slides to 2. So for this icebreaker, we're going to ask you all to imagine yourself coming home after a long day in the lab and you open the fridge, dreaming of this leftover pasta all day, only to find out it is mysteriously gone. Again, the sticky note on the fridge reads, "Sorry, I'm starving." Or "I was starving. I'll replace it later. Thank you, R," with a smiley face. This is the third time that R has borrowed your food. So what are you most likely to do in this scenario? Are you going to decide it's not worth the energy? You'll just start storing food in your backpack instead of the fridge? Or will you buy a mini fridge and label it experimental materials, do not touch, to handle the situation yourself? Will you call a friend and get advice on whether to confront your roommate or let it all go? Will you ask a resident assistant or housing advisor for tips on mediating roommate issues respectfully? Or would you just schedule a quick chat with your campus wellness counselor to manage your stress before addressing the food feud calmly? Let's see what we got. So I see one person decided it's not worth the energy. Just put the food in your backpack. You're gonna just avoid it. Most people are saying they're gonna call a friend and vent and get some advice on whether to confront your roommate or let it all go. Nice. That is still advancing in the polls. The third option. I don't want that to sway your options as well. All right. So the final results are in. Still, the number one answer is calling a friend and venting to get advice on whether to confront your roommate or let it all go, which is an excellent choice. This is where you lean on your support system. And then we next have a tie between buying a mini fridge and saying do not touch to handle it yourself, or you'll ask your resident assistants for help. And then on the end of those solutions is deciding it's not worth the energy and scheduling a quick chat with your wellness counselor. These are the type of situations we're going to be talking about today, not so much about food, but more so about your academic navigation. So we look forward to see how these responses show out throughout the rest of the event. We can go on to the next slide. But before we get started, we're going to do a few housekeeping activities. We want to remind you to please use the chat box, ask questions. There will be time for Q&A at the end, but feel free to ask any questions throughout this event. This webinar is being recorded in the main room. It will not be recorded in your breakout session, so you'll have more privacy there. And these recordings will be archived and available on our website. When you unmute, please keep your microphone on mute for most of the time when you're not speaking. A great deal of our communication involves body language and nonverbal cues, so let us know how you're responding to the discussion. You are welcome to introduce yourself, as we just said, so please do that and continue to introduce yourself throughout the event. Closed captioning is accessible. Today's slides are recorded, and please contact Jamila if you have any questions. And we'll go on to the next slide. This is a disclaimer. Any opinions, findings, and interpretations, conclusions, or recommendations expressed is for the material of those that are here in this room and is not the views of the AAAS Board of Directors and National Science Foundation. So for today's agenda, we'll go over what the S-STEM REC is all about, session objectives, and then we'll introduce you to the SJI tool, which you'll learn more about. We'll look into building navigational strategies, breakout discussions, and a whole group reflection time, and come back with some resources. So just so you know a little bit about why we're here and what we're doing here, today's goals are to explore strategies for thriving through change in your S-STEM journey. The S-STEM program's vision is to increase the success of low-income, academically talented students with demonstrated financial need who are pursuing degrees in STEM fields. This program is building a stronger STEM workforce while fostering innovation across the nation. Next slide. The S-STEM Resource Hub and Evaluation Center, or REC as we call it here, serves as a portfolio for over 600 NSF-funded S-STEM programs nationwide. We have created this infrastructure to build community, share knowledge about effective strategies to support you all in STEM. Next slide. And as I said earlier, today is all about how you thrive through change by learning some navigational strategies through your STEM journey and discuss ways to seek support and use that support effectively. Next slide. And I'll pass it on to my colleague, Mercy.
Thank you, Taylor, for that great overview of the S-STEM REC, as well as describing what we are going to be exploring today. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mercy Mugo. I'm the Executive Director at QM Network. It's wonderful to have you all with us this afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to join today's conversation. I'll briefly introduce our speakers who will lead us through the next part of our agenda. First, we have Dr. Callum Hetherington, who is a department chair and graduate director at Texas Tech University. Dr. Hetherington is a geologist who pursues teaching and research in the application of mineral science to understand crustal processes with applications to igneous and metamorphic rocks and critical mineral resources. And through his experience as a graduate program director and leadership of an academic department, he's an advocate for providing and supporting services that advance and promote successful student outcomes. Next, we have Melanie Josiam, who is a PhD candidate in engineering education at Virginia Tech University. She has a master's degree in civil engineering from Virginia Tech and a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from UT Austin. She's interested in improving the engineering environment where engineers are trained and socialized. Specifically, she's interested in improving engineering culture, socio-technical impact, and student support for all students in engineering classrooms and beyond. Last but not least, we have Dr. Walter Lee, who is a professor in the Virginia Tech Department of Engineering Education. He is also the executive director for the Center for Engineering Excellence and Discovery. He holds a bachelor's degree in industrial engineering from Clemson University, a master's degree in industrial and systems engineering, and a PhD in engineering education, both from Virginia Tech University. Dr. Lee's vision is to be a driving force in the national effort to ensure that institutions provide students, regardless of their personal background, with the necessary support to succeed in STEM. His research has also earned him a very prestigious award in the career program with the National Science Foundation that is focused on understanding how marginalized students navigate undergraduate engineering programs and make decisions about seeking help. With that, I'm delighted to hand things over to Melanie, who will lead us in exploring the situational judgment inventory that will help us understand our own navigational preferences when facing different academic or personal challenges. Melanie?
Thank you, Mercy. Hi, everyone. It's great to be here with you. I'm going to start out by asking y'all a question. So if you can type in the chat, I would love to know, have you ever taken a personality test, BuzzFeed quiz, career aptitude test, like Clifton Strengths Finders, any sort of test like that? If you have a favorite one, you can put it in the chat. One of my favorites, I guess, is the Myers-Briggs. I know that not everyone finds it to be useful, but I find it to be really, really interesting. And so I'd love to hear y'all or see y'all contribute in the chat of what types of personality tests or career tests have you taken. Nice. I'm seeing Myers-Briggs, 16 personalities. Oh, Enneagram is a good test. Has anyone taken any tests that are different than personality tests, like career or aptitude tests or things like that? Dr. Lee's mentioning love languages. That's interesting. Okay, so for those of you who have taken a personality test, BuzzFeed quiz, or something similar, what we're going to do today hopefully will feel a little bit familiar. And if you haven't taken a test like that before, then we're going to be introducing you to something new within a context that's hopefully more familiar to you all. So can I get the next slide? So the thing we're going to be answering today is, what if you could take a quiz or a test to see how you prefer to navigate STEM learning environments? And I will do the next slide. So today I'm going to be introducing to you all the Engineering Student Preferences and Navigating Engineering Situational Judgment Inventory. It is a mouthful, so our research team likes to refer to this as the eSPIN SJI. So if you hear me say SJI as we go through this, or eSPIN, know that I'm talking about a situational judgment inventory. And just for some context, a situational judgment inventory is basically like an assessment tool that allows you to understand more about yourself and sort of describe how you would respond to certain scenarios. And so we're going to be talking about situations within the STEM learning environment. Next slide. So the question I have for you all is, within a STEM learning environment, there's lots of different things that you interact with. And within the context of our research, we refer to these as domains. And so I think it's important to wonder or think about, do you navigate differently in different domains? So some domains that we have within the STEM learning environment include academic performance, which is things like taking a test, studying for exams, doing homework. Then we have faculty-staff interactions, like maybe asking a faculty member for a letter of recommendation or an opportunity to get involved with research. Then we have professional development, which is things like doing internships and developing for your career in the future. Extracurricular involvement would include things like student orgs, design teams, anything that you're doing in the space outside of the classroom to get opportunities. Peer group interactions are also relevant to the STEM learning environment. You are doing this journey along with a lot of other people around you, and how you are treated and how you interact with others definitely influences your experiences in your learning environment. And then finally, our last domain of special circumstances is kind of a catch-all to recognize that some people may face like additional obstacles within their learning environment, such as maybe financial demands or family issues. And we want to recognize that those things can come up to and can affect your thriving in STEM. So today we're going to be diving deeper into a few of these domains to better understand our scenarios that we have in our situational judgment inventory. Next slide. So we're going to find out how y'all navigate and how we navigate in different domains within the academic, performance, professional development, and peer group interaction domains. Next slide. So we have our first scenario. So I want to preface this by saying that we're going to go through 3 scenarios today. All of these scenarios do come from our situational judgment inventory, which you will get a link to at the end of this webinar, and you would have already gotten a link to via email. So you'll be able to explore all the scenarios if you take the inventory online, but today we're going to just preview some and sort of talk through why this situational judgment inventory can be useful for you developing an understanding of your own navigational preferences. So we have our first scenario here. I'm going to sort of talk through how this works with the first scenario, and then we're going to do some Zoom polls so we can see how you are all choosing how you would navigate. So similar to the icebreaker, we're going to have a scenario and we're going to have different ways to respond. So our first scenario is within the academic performance domain, and it's your first round of tests did not go well and your usual study habits are not working. Next slide. So for each of the scenarios in our situational judgment inventory, we allow students to select responses of what they would least likely do and most likely do in response to each scenario. In the context of this webinar, we're only going to be talking about most likely to simplify things a little. So as you see these scenarios pop up, I want you to start thinking about what would you most likely do in this scenario? And there's going to be a tendency to want to pick multiple options. A lot of students have expressed that to me in the past. So I would do your best to think about a specific example that relates to the scenario and then try your best to pick the thing you think you would most likely do. Next slide. Yes, thank you. So we have our first set of responses to our scenarios. I'm going to read them out loud, and then there's going to be a Zoom poll where you're going to get to answer this question yourself. So in response to your first round of tests did not go well and your usual study habits are not working, what would you most likely do? Would you wait until the next round of tests to see if you'll do better? Would you review your first round of tests once you get them back to understand your mistakes? Would you make and work with the study group with peers in your classes to better understand the material? Would you start going to office hours regularly for each of your courses? Or would you visit the Student Success Center you have on your campus to learn a new study method? So everyone think about that for a second. And once you feel like you have your response, we will put up a Zoom poll for you to record your response. So we are ready for the Zoom poll. Thank you. I'll give you all about 30 seconds to figure out how you want to respond to this scenario. Okay, I'm seeing some answers roll in. So far, we're getting mostly people responding with the middle three options. I'll give you all about another 10 seconds to record your responses. Okay, so what I'm seeing for this one is that about 65% of y'all said that you would review your first round of tests once you get them back to understand your mistakes. Later on in this presentation, I'm going to share what other students have said in response to this scenario, but I'll give y'all a preview and say that the way y'all are responding does reflect how students in the past have responded to this as well. But for the sake of time, I'm going to move us along to the next scenario. And while we're going through these scenarios, be thinking about how easy was it for you to come up to a response to these scenarios? How realistic do they feel? And how are you actually reacting in real life when you're encountering these types of things? I'm ready for the next slide. Yes, awesome. So our next scenario is going to be within the domain of peer group interactions. And so the scenario we have here is you are having trouble finding STEM students with whom you relate, and you're starting to feel socially isolated. And we are ready to see the responses. Awesome, thank you. So the responses we have here, the options you can select from are continue to focus on your studies and hope that over time you will naturally encounter peers who share your interests, join a student org outside of your major, talk to family and friends from home, join a STEM student organization, or reach out to a mental health professional to talk about your feelings of isolation. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but it's important to note with our SJI that there are no right or wrong answers, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later. But I want to be clear that all of your answers are valid, and you should feel comfortable putting the answer that you think most reflects how you would actually respond in this scenario. So now we are ready for the second poll. Awesome. So I'll give you about 30 seconds here once again to record your responses. Okay, so what I'm seeing for this one is that about 65% of y'all once again have selected a similar response, which is to join a STEM student organization. And as we start talking about a little bit later, how our other students responded, once again, I would say that y'all's responses are sort of echoing how students' responses break down in this question. So that's interesting. I will talk more about what these answer choices mean and what all of this means in a bit, but for now, we're going to do one more scenario. So I'm ready for the next slide. Okay, so our final scenario that we're going to be going through in this seminar is a professional development scenario, which is that you no longer think your major is right for you, but you're anxious about leaving STEM. And the response options we have for this one are stay in your major in hopes that you'll become more comfortable, sign up for a non-STEM class to explore your other interests, talk to your friends or family about your discomfort, talk to an academic advisor about wanting to leave your major, or reach out to career services to learn more about other career opportunities outside of your major. So we will do one last poll for this scenario. And I'll give you about 30 seconds to record your responses. And while you're doing this, I would also start to think about if you felt like you were responding to these scenarios in similar ways or different ways. Okay, about 10 more seconds. Okay, so this time for this scenario, we don't really have a clear majority for any of them, which I would say once again reflects how other students have responded in the past. We have about 25% of you saying that you would sign up for a non-STEM class to explore your other interests, and 38% of you said you would talk to an academic advisor about wanting to leave your major, with the rest of you choosing other options as well. Okay, so now let's sort of look under the hood to figure out what this all means. So I am ready for the next slide. So the way we've designed our situational judgment inventory is that each answer choice or response option maps onto a response category. And so I don't know if you were starting to pick up on this as you went through the 3 scenarios that we did today, but each scenario responses are organized in the same way, such as the first answer is some sort of answer choice related to taking no action and sort of waiting to see what happens. The second answer choice is about independent troubleshooting. Third answer choice is personal support. Fourth answer choice is academic support. And fifth answer choice is helping professional support. So this is sort of like the structure of our instrument. In the next slide, I will talk about what these things actually mean. So here we have our 5 navigation modes again, and in the next slide, you'll see an explanation of each one. So at a high level, something important to know about the navigation modes we've identified from students is that they all have strengths and drawbacks. None of these are ideal in all circumstances. None of these are perfect, and none of these are horrible. The message I want to drive home with you all today is that each of these can be valuable in different circumstances, and it's important to learn that there are various ways to navigate. And so you feel like you have control in sort of deciding how you're going to navigate. And I'm going to quickly talk about each of these so you have an idea of what the navigation modes mean when we put you into breakout rooms to discuss further. So the navigation mode of taking no action basically means that you prefer to wait and see how things are going to shake out before making a decision. And this approach can save you energy, but at the same time, what the situation you're facing could get worse if you choose to do nothing. With independent troubleshooting, what this means is that you will seek out solutions yourself. So this could include like going to the internet to look up something, using ChatGPT to ask a chatbot how you should respond, how you should study, anything like that. And the strength of this approach is that you are able to find help because you're seeking out something yourself, but sometimes you can be limited to the solutions that you are able to find. Personal support, the way we're defining it, means that you rely on peers, family, or friends. And this approach can be valuable because you can seek out help from people you are comfortable with. However, you can be limited in what help you get because you can only get help from what people in your circles already know. With academic support, what this means is that you are using your academic environment to navigate and get help, such as help from instructors, teaching assistants, and advisors. And this approach is good because you're seeking out help from people who are equipped to help you in the context of your STEM learning environment. But the drawback is that you may be lacking personalized emotional support for certain types of social challenges. And then finally, we have helping professional support, which is relying on mental health professionals or student affair practitioners, basically people who are employed by the university to support you outside of an academic context. And This can be good because you can be using people who are trained to provide high quality support, but the drawback of this is that you may miss out on other types of support. So each of these, like I mentioned, have strengths and drawbacks, and I would say the overall goal is to recognize that there's different ways to navigate and try to figure out which ones make sense in different contexts. So to wrap up this section, I'm now going to talk about how previous students have responded to the 3 scenarios I showed you earlier, just so you can get a sense of how different scenarios and different domains kind of go differently and how students react differently. So I'm ready for the next slide. So in our first scenario that y'all got to see in academic performance domain, we had your first round of tests did not go well and your usual study habits are not working. So quite similarly to how you all responded to the scenario in our previous data, which includes about 200 responses, 200 students, we had 50% of students selecting independent troubleshooting or relying on themselves to get support. And in this scenario, that included reviewing your tests. And so what you'll see here for this scenario, basically, it was that there was one dominant response. A lot of students felt like they knew what to do and they were going to do independent troubleshooting. Like there was a clear sign of how to respond to the scenario. However, that's not really the case for all the scenarios, as you'll see in the next slide. So in our peer group interaction scenario, which is you're having trouble finding STEM students with whom you relate and are starting to feel socially isolated, we see that student responses were not so clear cut. A lot of students had variations in what they would do. So while 36% of students chose academic support, we also had a lot of people choosing to take no action in this scenario and or rely on independent troubleshooting. So different than scenario 1, in scenario 3, we had people doing different kinds of things. And I share this basically to kind of emphasize my point that there's no right answer to any of these scenarios of how to navigate, but it's important to recognize sort of what are your tendencies? How do they compare to the people around you? Are you navigating in a way that the environment is expecting you to? And then finally, with our last scenario on the next slide, we have our scenario in the professional development domain, which is you no longer think your major is right for you, but you're anxious about leaving STEM. This one had even more variation in how students responded, which was very reflective of how you all responded in the poll as well. So we had a lot of responses were selected by a lot of people. 30% of students chose independent troubleshooting, 23% of students chose academic support, and 22% of students chose no action. So this is a scenario in which it's clear that students really didn't have a strong sense of like what's the right way to go, and that's totally reasonable. I think this is a scenario that requires a lot of thought and is a complicated one because you're trying to make a complicated decision. So it makes sense that our students in our data and you all are not so aligned in what you would do. And so the point of all of this, of getting you all to respond to the scenarios and then showing you how other students have responded in the past, is to drive home the message that there are different ways to navigate. All of them can be valuable in certain contexts. It's important to start to recognize how you navigate and in what context you're making those types of decisions so that you can be intentional about making good navigational decisions in your STEM learning environment. And now I'm going to hand it off to Dr. Hetherington.
Thank you very much. Could we have the next slide, please? Great. Okay, so I'm here to talk to you today because as somebody who is deeply embedded in supporting students to maximize their success, I come across an awful lot of students who conform with the survey outcomes where they are reluctant to seek help, perhaps because they're taking no action, or perhaps because they are they're all in on independent troubleshooting. What I would like to sort of discuss and introduce is why are individuals reluctant to seek external help? And there's many ways to frame this, but because people think that they should be able to be successful, and they don't want to make excuses when they are struggling. However, it's illogical to think that you are the only person who might be struggling with these, with any particular challenge in life. And similarly, it's also irrational to think that successful people never face challenges. So I'm going to flip this and say, congratulations, everybody. You are already successful students. And I know that because you have taken time out of your busy days, your busy schedules, because you have identified and seen something in this session that you think and hope might advance your success. So rather than thinking of this in terms of a shortcoming, we're going to recognize your success and your potential for success, and we're going to help you broaden your understanding and definition of what is success. And we're going to think about what successful people do when they are faced with challenges. These challenges may be academic, they may be practical, and they may be emotional. And we're going to think about some of of what successful people do. So successful people, when they have challenges, they designate some responsibility for solving that problem. So they find somebody who is going to provide support to them. And then they are going to trust in the expert. They are going to use the support that is provided them to advance their success. So I would like you to think about these two elements, these two tenets on if I have a challenge, to be successful, I must overcome this challenge. Who should I go to seek support in meeting this challenge? And how am I going to implement the support and recommendations that are given to me by these experts? So if you could remember some of these themes as we move into the breakout room, I look forward to hearing some feedback and some thoughts, and we'll look at some more tangible, concrete providers of support afterwards.
Thank you, Marani and Dr. Haddington, for that great overview of the topic. We'll continue this conversation in small breakout groups where we can talk more openly about, your approaches and what influences your decision when faced with different challenges. So we'll get into breakout session. The breakout session will be the same type of questions. And so we are running behind with time. So instead of the 20 minutes that we had initially allocated, we'll do 12 minutes. So we'll be back in the main room at 2:45. Jamila, you can take us to the breakout session. I don't know that there's anyone who is joining who is not a student. If there's anyone who is joining us who is not a student, please, you can raise your hand so that we make sure to send you to a breakout session that is best fit for you. But majority of our participants today are students, so we're gonna have those breakout sessions set up. Are we ready, Jamila?
Just about had to move all of our speakers into the room, but we'll be open in just a moment.
Thanks.
So the rooms 1 through 5 will be for any students joining us. And if you are a faculty member or anyone who is not a current student, please feel free to join breakout room 6. Otherwise, looking forward to hearing about everything you discuss in your small groups.
I know that was super short. We're in the middle of a discussion, but again, because of time limitation, hopefully we'll continue this conversation at reflection. Dr. Lee, please lead us on the reflection section.
Yeah, so I realized it's short. I am curious if anyone heard anything or had a new thought that they want to share now that we have the large group together. So I realized that you might have affirmed something that you already believed, or you might have got a new perspective on something. So I did want to kind of see if anybody did have something they wanted to share with the larger group with the time, since we have everybody's attention. You can either type it in the chat, or you should be able to unmute if you raise your hand first. Or if any of the other facilitators heard anything that was particularly interesting. So the first comment says, in our breakout room, the issue of getting bad support and inadequate support due to time conflicts came up. That was one of the things we started talking about, was how sometimes the most qualified person might be a person who's only available Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, which does mean you have to have realized you need support early enough and going early enough for them to help you, and how sometimes that can lead to you having to troubleshoot at 11 p.m. when something's due at midnight, which is a very different context than being able to get good support. I don't know if that's the same context that came up in your group, Melanie, or not. Anything else? Yep, so similar, the importance of time. So time is a big part of navigating, and I think that's one of those lessons that it takes some people a very long time to learn, or some people a hard time learning, is realizing that if you don't anticipate the fact that you might need help, sometimes you can put yourself in a situation where getting help's not necessarily possible. And thinking through like what that means, and identifying which situations are likely to require that time so that you start early enough. But anything
Karen,
good. Go ahead.
Karen has observed about how some departments may not be supportive or encouraging people to seek help outside. Seek external.
Yeah, I've experienced that as a PhD student, that I'm pretty good with finding external opportunities. I believe in a distributed mentoring model that one advisor typically isn't enough to fulfill all of a student's needs. But I think some departments may prefer that their grad students kind of stay home, so to say. And not that it's completely discouraged, but they would prefer that, they have some, a great deal of guidance around the direction that their grad students are going to go in. And when grad students are independent, I went overseas for my undergrad. I'm very international. And some universities or departments aren't used to that level of curiosity, global thinking, and so may not know how to balance. Okay, we want to help steer you in this direction because we know you, we know your research, but also give you at the same time that latitude to shape your own trajectory.
Yeah, so you raise interesting points, and I definitely think that it's important to keep in mind that there might be expectations or norms in the environment you're in that responds more positively to certain forms of help seeking than other forms. What you said actually reminded me of an idea of related to curiosity that I hadn't thought about, where the person said that in a lot of places, curiosity is perceived as a form of deviance, and it's not necessarily appreciated as much as you might assume. So there is some contextual considerations that you also want to kind of keep in mind. And then there's another comment about how discussing day-to-day problems is easier to figure out, whether those big career decisions are more difficult to seek help with. That resonates with my undergraduate experience, where one of the things that we talked about was situations that were less prepared to handle. And I would say the professional ones in undergrad were the ones where I didn't know what to do, but I also didn't know enough or have the network necessary to know which professionals are on campus or off campus were best positioned to help me. Whereas the academic things that I was doing every day in classes were much easier to solve because everyone was kind of going through very similar things. So I do think that the career decisions can be kind of trickier. So hopefully we want to really kind of get you to just start thinking about whether the things you're doing are working or whether they're not working, as well as getting in the habit of talking to other people about how they're navigating situations. I think oftentimes we can assume that everyone is responding in a similar way, and creating a context where people are open to sharing how they're navigating situations can sometimes expose opportunities and moves to you that you didn't necessarily think about. So with that, I do want to turn it back over to Dr. Hetherington, and we can go to the next slide.
Thank you. Yeah, let's move to the next slide. Yeah. So before the breakout rooms, I described 3 flavors of support, and I've used examples from around the Texas Tech campus. So Texas Tech campus, it's quite a large footprint. We have a lot of students, some 40,000 students. So there's an awful lot of resources available. But I hazard to guess that many other campuses will have similar types of support available. But one of the most interesting things I've discovered since getting into this is how few students actually make use of these resources. At Texas Tech, the numbers are less than 5% of enrolled students make regular use of some of these resources that are available to them. And many of these resources are funded by student fees. They have already been paid for. They're designed to be accessible and free at the point of service for students who are currently enrolled. So the services, they cover aspects that will improve and help your academic success. They could be practical. They could be support of payment plan. That's not necessarily just payment plan for tuition and fees, but it can be helping you manage finances. There are writing centers and career centers. There are options on many campuses to facilitate transport support to help you get from A to B more efficiently. And then, of course, an awful lot of emphasis has quite rightly been put on emotional well-being and how it directly ties to practical and academic support. So again, bearing in mind that each of these services are available, if we can move to the last slide, our action planning here, and something I'm going to ask everybody to think about, although not necessarily share, is to consider that there is a mismatch between what many students know they should do and what a student will actually do when faced with a problem. It's the default to the no action option and hope for the best. And as with many things in education and in teaching, I'm going to encourage everybody here to be intentional. So I'm going to ask everybody to pause for 30 seconds and think, what is one of my challenges right now? And what is the goal of solving that challenge or overcoming that challenge or managing that challenge? And then I'm going to ask everybody to be very intentional and identify a resource that they will make a plan to visit or to access. And again, this is going to pull back on we are going to seek support and we are going to use the support that is offered. And hopefully everybody will have a positive experience from identifying a goal, intentionally seeking out support and overcoming a challenge so that they can move on and be more successful than they were at the moment of being in this seminar. So again, maybe take a couple of seconds, and I strongly encourage people to write it down, because then you're making a wee contract with yourself to commit to doing something. And hopefully, over time, we may hear back from you with a couple of case studies, a couple of examples of how your deliberate actions have been rewarded with academic advance. So there we go. So again, I will leave you and presumably hand over back to Marcy for some closing remarks. I wish you all every success with the run into the end of the semester, and I hope to hear some good news feedback.
Thank you, Dr. Hetherington, for sharing these resources and also helping us think about how we can put what we've learned into action. I will just add one more resource in the chat, and that is because on the registration survey, there was a question about, what challenges are you facing? And there's some people who were concerned about taking care of their junior and senior year because of some financial changes in their family. And so I just thought about, or I remember the Last Mile organization that we learned about from our S-STEM scholars who support seniors or juniors and seniors who are about to finish with any financial need that they may have. So I shared it there just in case, any one of you may want those services. That's a place where you can get the support, and they help from anything from housing, transportation to tuition, like they take care of that. And I think it's very easy to apply. So I put the link on the chat. Also, I want to thank everybody for their time, for their contribution, and also participation today. I know you took the time off your busy, agenda to come join us today. I hope that you'll leave with some new insights and strategies that can guide you as you navigate your academic and personal journey. So again, thank you for joining us. And as we wrap up, I would appreciate if you could take just a few minutes to complete our post-event survey, as your feedback will help us make future sessions even more useful. We'll share the link on the chat. Oh, Tara, thanks for sharing the link on the chat. That will be helpful to us as we plan events during the next year, because we still have things that we need to plan for next year with students. Again, thank you for your time, and also for a very interactive session. I wish we had more time for breakout session to get more, to dive deep into, all those challenges and solutions that you all are sharing. But again, because of time, we have to come to an end. But we do appreciate your time and for being with us. Continue connecting with us on our LinkedIn page, our social media page, and you get more information and also to connect with other students. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.